What's up, guys? Eric Thayne here from Cinema Mastery, and today I want to walk you through a scene that I shot last year, pretty recently, for one of my hotel clients for a luxury hotel property up in Park City, Utah. And the scene that we were shooting was basically the hotel. They've got this feature where for kids, they will provide you with a cool little teepee and a lantern and a stuffed animal and things for kids to play with and to sleep in at night for the living room. And so they really wanted to show off that feature. And I was excited about shooting this scene because there's just a lot of opportunity here for some dynamics with lighting and to do some really cool things. So I want to kind of walk you through some of the still frames here, what we did in the scene, how we lit it, and kind of just go from there, okay? So basically you can see the scene's pretty simple setup. We've got this teepee kind of in the living room being lit up. And this is supposed to be a nighttime scene, of course, because the kid's going to bed. We can tell that it's a nighttime scene because of what she's wearing. You can tell she's wearing pajamas. Even the dad is wearing some, nice comfy clothes. We've got a fireplace lit here, making it just feel like a nighttime scene. However, this scene was actually shot early in the morning because of shoot schedules. We had to kind of schedule it that way so that we were able to get the light that we wanted outside. And you'll notice that we've got this really nice blue daylight coming in through the window here. So I think we were up probably 5 a.m. in the morning when it was still pitch black outside, just waiting for the right light because I knew I wanted this to feel like a blue hour scene. I love shooting at blue hour. I just love the look that it gives it. And so I wanted it to look like nighttime or close to nighttime in this blue hour. And so we actually started setting things up when it was dark outside and then just waited for the light to get just right. And sometimes you have to do that because the light can move really fast, but you leave the camera on basically. And we had this scene set up and I had the camera on and I was just waiting for that light outside to just become the right amount of light and the right amount of blue for what I was going for. Okay. And so that was kind of how that worked. Now what we have happening here, obviously we've set up this cool little teepee for the kid and her dad. And what they do is the hotel provides these little lanterns. It's this little blue toy lantern that you can turn on. It like projects stars onto the ceiling. That lantern was not very bright at all. And it wasn't going to work. We weren't going to be able to use it as like a practical source because the light that comes off of it you could hardly even see on camera because it's so dim. And it's not going to give us the right color of light. And so we don't want to actually be using that light. We want to motivate the light as if it's coming from that lantern. So what we did here is right in here where you can't really see it, but down on the floor down there, and that's kind of annoying in the way. But in there's a practical light bulb, which is basically, it's from Kino Flow. They have these practical light bulbs that are perfectly color tuned. Color match, so it's it was a 3200 or a 3000, I can't remember, Kelvin light bulb basically, and then we had a fixture that we attached it to that basically just runs all the way back here and plugged into the wall back there. Okay, and this is all happening, of course, inside the tent. All right, and so we had it sitting there. You'll be able to see it on another frame, but we had it sitting there right next to the lantern. So the light is being motivated as if it's coming from that lantern, and you'll never see the lantern in the shot. But the light is actually coming from this light, of course, so we get the kind of light that we want. So that's what we're getting. That's what we're using in order to kind of light up the inside of this tent, all of this light that you're seeing here, which is creating this really cool focal point in this image where you have, the dad and the daughter are both kind of silhouetted against that light and really stands out and draws your eye into this part of the frame. Before we go into the tent, I'm going to show you a couple other things that are going on here. Of course, we've got the fireplace lit. That is on purpose. Again, production design, trying to create the feel of nighttime, and it just kind of helps with that idea. And it's also a winter video, so we wanted to make it feel warm and cozy. And then we've got this other source of light coming here, as you can see, kind of coming from this direction. This is actually a practical lamp. So there was actually a lamp over here, and just a standing up lamp like that. We've got another one of those Kino Flow bulbs in here, another one of 3200 Kelvin, giving us some nice warm light coming from that direction. And basically without that, the scene was looking a little bit flat. We kind of had everything, everything out here and over here was all kind of the same, and then we just had this really strong focal point in the middle. And so turning on that lamp actually just really helped kind of create some dynamic in the shot here, make it more interesting. It almost looks as if there's light coming through a doorway or something, which gives you the sense of, there's more to the space than just what we're seeing. And the idea here with this scene was that, Dad was here with the girl reading her bedtime story, and before he goes to bed, and so it kind of opens up the world into that other room, like mom's maybe in there, or there's other things going on in the scene. Okay, and then so you can see that light you can see the shadow from the couch here. So just there's some light kind of just coming from that side. Okay. And so there's that. Now, the last thing that we did is when I had this set up originally, the shot was looking pretty dark. We had this big focal point in the middle with the TP, right? And then everything else around it, all this out here was really dark. And so what we did is we took a quasar tube. So it's behind camera, but essentially a quasar tube at 5600 Kelvin. Okay. And again, these are both 3200. Oops, 3200. 3200. Okay, and we're doing we're kind of matching or mixing color temperatures here. Okay, that was the point. We wanted to kind of push the orange inside the tent and then allow the blue daylight to come through. Now, it's not very light outside yet. It's still really dark outside, so there's not a lot of light coming through those windows, and so that was why it was getting really dark in here, and all you could see was them. And so we took that quasar. It's actually bouncing off the ceiling. So if you take quasar at 5600, because again, we want to motivate more of that daylight coming through the window, we're kind of just bouncing that off the ceiling, and that's filling in the entire room. And so if you ever have a scene where your shadows are just too dark and you can't see into the shadows very well, rather than increasing your exposure, like you want to expose the scene so that your talent is lit properly, rather than increasing your exposure and potentially messing that up, you can actually come in and use a light like this, bounce it off the ceiling, and let that light just kind of flood over the whole scene, which is going to help increase the level of the light throughout the whole room. Okay, and so that's what we did here, and you can kind of see that happening in here. Just how like in here in the shadows and the details, you can actually see details in there, whereas before you wouldn't be able to do that. It would have been more black like this, like what you're seeing back here. Okay, and so it just gives us a little bit more visibility into the shadows in the room. Okay, let's go ahead and go into the tent. So here's our first shot of the girl. You can see the lantern over here, just behind the dad's face. Again, like I said, there are shots where you could kind of see the lantern, so you can see where the light's coming from, but we're motivating that light with an actual light bulb back there because this lantern's not giving us the light that we want. Really, really nice scene. We're basically, we're shooting, notice that we're shooting into the shadows on the talent. Typically you want to do that rather than shooting our talent where they're broadly lit. You'll notice that we're shooting into the shadow side of the dad's face. We're also technically shooting into the shadow side of this girl's face, which is this side where this is being lit, right? Because she's kind of laying at a different angle. And so our light's coming from here, but this light is not only hitting our talent directly, but it's also bouncing up and hitting the tent. So it's coming up here, bouncing off, and then bouncing down on our talent, which is what's providing this really nice, soft light. You can see kind of how the light's wrapping around Dad's face there. Really, really nice. So that's something to be looking at is usually a bright source like that, which is just like a single point, a light bulb. We're not talking about a big diffusion frame or anything. We're talking about a light bulb is usually going to produce like a really harsh light on your subject because just a single point, it's not a large source. But because of the tent and because that light is back in the back here and it's actually projecting up into the tent and then all that light is being bounced down on our subject, it's actually creating this really nice light. And again, we're shooting into the shadow side of the subject. So reverse keying our subject which is going to help create more depth, more contrast, and just in general looks nicer. Okay. If we move in here, now you can see really what that light's doing. Again, here's the lantern down at the bottom, and you can see where that light is coming from right there, pretty bright, kind of a hot spot right there. But again, that light is bouncing up and then onto our talent. Same thing back here, up and then back onto our talent. So we're seeing this really, really nice gradient from light to dark on our talent. Another thing to point out here is that we've got the the line between the light is basically coming down this corner of his face. And this is something that I do a lot. If you look at a lot of my work, I kind of, I guess just personal preference, but I love splitting the light right there. So if you look at light, if you look at somebody's face, they basically got the front of their face and then they have the sides of their face, right? And always, we're always reverse keying, so the light's coming from the back. But I love splitting the light right on that corner. It's basically like a corner between the front and the side. So if this is the front of their face, then this is the side of their face. And so a lot of times I will try to find a way to light things so that it's being split right on that corner. To me, I just think it looks really pleasing. It adds a lot of like really nice depth. You'll notice actually as I'm looking at the camera right now, this light is probably doing that. You're seeing the line being split right here. There's more shadow over here, and then the front of my face is lit. A lot of people will talk about how you should do like Rembrandt lighting, where you've got this triangle on their cheek. That's kind of the same thing, basically the same similar concept. One side of the reverse side of the face is lit pretty well, and then you've got some of that light kind of bleeding over onto this side of the nose. And then for me, I like to see that light kind of stopping at that corner and then transitioning to darkness. Anyway, just a little tidbit there. So you can see that happening here. And then again, this light on the back, really nice how we've just got this, just a little bit of kick to kind of give him some shape there in the scene. One more frame for you before we wrap up. In this one, you're seeing our daughter's hands here reading her book. Of course, sitting next to the dad. And same thing happening here. We've got all this light kind of beaming down from the light bouncing off of the tent, which is just creating this really nice soft light on her hand, on her arm here, and then this really nice transition from light to dark. One thing to think about with your cinematography and with your lighting is that shadows, like the shadows are just as important as the light. It's not all about where the light is, but it's all about where the shadows are. And if you can create pockets of light and shadow in different places, it just has this aesthetically pleasing look. You notice that everything's not lit here, but we've got light up here, and we've got shadow down here, and then we've got light and then shadow. I've heard people refer to this as like checkerboard lighting, where you're kind of alternating between light and shadow, but it's not always necessarily like totally linear. Sometimes it's just different pockets of light. Notice how all of this over here in general is lit pretty well, but then we've got darkness over here. And all of that is helping draw our eye right into the focal point, which is her hand right here. And just making the scene more interesting. So be thinking about that kind of stuff is how can you pull in shadows and really like make the shadows work for you to draw attention to where you want the eye to go. Obviously our focus is helping with that as well, because our hand is in focus here, and then the rest of stuff is out of focus in the background like this. But you're kind of seeing, what's happening there. The focal point is the hand, is the book here, and what she's doing with that. And so we're using a combination of light and shadow to kind of make that happen. Anyway, there's a quick breakdown of this scene and how I shot it, how I lit it. I hope that was helpful for you guys. If you're interested in learning more about lighting and lighting for cinematography, especially commercial cinematography, I do have a course called Lighting Secrets, where I break down everything that I know basically about lighting, kind of teach you that in a way that's really easy to digest and understand. It's on sale right now. If you're interested, I'll put a link down to that down in the description below. Hope to check it out. Anyway, hope that was helpful. Hope that's valuable to you, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.